We're going to go into much greater depth about content in a later section, but for now, I just want to give you the basic SEO fundamentals. So this page, I'm obviously targeting neurofeedback, and what you've learned so far, you want to have it in the title tag, the URL, the H1 headline tag. But let's get into the content because the content is really where it's at. So if I want to rank for neurofeedback, I want to make sure that I'm including it in the content of the page. And as you can see here, I've included it right there within the first paragraph. This is a really good idea to try to include it somewhere in those opening paragraphs, the keyword that you're trying to rank for. And as you can see, it's kind of supplemented down throughout the body of the content. So you don't want to overdo this. If you're trying to rank for neurofeedback, it's not a good idea to stick it into every paragraph or every other paragraph. That's a little bit overkill. Your good rule of thumb always is make it sound good for the reader. If it sounds good to the reader, if your content is engaging and they do all those off-page criteria items, then that gives you the best chance of ranking, as opposed to trying to squeeze in your keyword the certain amount of times. Way back in the day with Yahoo, before Google even came around, you could use this approach where you're sticking your keyword in just the right amount of times and you could rank for that term almost immediately. But things have changed a lot since then, and Google is getting smarter and smarter. So one of the things that they do take in consideration and they're getting smarter about is terms that are related to other terms. So if I use the term neurofeedback, well, they might know that brain flexibility and neurooptimal and all these other phrases are related to neurofeedback. So you don't necessarily have to use that exact phrase in your content for Google to know that this page is related to neurofeedback. Because you're writing naturally, which is something I always encourage you to do, if you're writing naturally and you're using phrases that are related to your target keyword that you're trying to rank for, this gives you the best chance. So as always, write naturally in your content. That gives you your best opportunity, but try to include it, the phrase you're targeting, somewhere in the beginning and sprinkled throughout if you can, if it makes sense within the content. Now, as far as length of content, a good rule of thumb that I use is a minimum of 250 words. So if you look at statistics of what pages rank in the top search results, it's often 1,000 or 2,000 words of content and even more. These long content is generally what ranks well in search. So that's why I recommend at least 250 words. Now, as far as how long, like, is there too much? Well, there's really not, because like I said, long content is generally what ranks really well. Now, something I will say, the good rule of thumb as far as how long your content should be is, again, always focus on the user. So it can vary by page. So if I'm writing a page about neurofeedback, that's a pretty competitive term, and I'm going to have to cover a lot of ground. It's a very general term. So I'm going to have to make my content somewhat longer. And as you can see on this page, the content is a little bit longer. Now, if I was trying to target a very specific keyword, so like traditional neurofeedback in Cleveland, just for example, that page might not necessarily have to be as long because it's very targeted. So I could probably get away with writing 250 or 750 words of content. So you need to take it page by page depending on what keyword you're targeting. If it's a general term, you're going to have to write a lot of content if you have any chance of ranking for it. So like if you tried to target travel, for example, you'd have to have a really long page and you'd have to have a lot of other things going your way. But use use that as a guideline. Always focus on your user and think what deserves to rank number 1 for this particular term. And that should be a good judge of how long your body copy should be. So I hope this has helped. Summing it up, use the keyword you're targeting within the content, sprinkle it throughout, write naturally. That way you're using synonyms and other words related to it, which is what Google understands. And finally, write the content with the focus in mind that what deserves to rank number 1. So if I'm writing a page on neurofeedback, I'm going to have to write a lot of content. If I have a more specific keyword, then I might be able to write a little bit less copy and have a chance of ranking for it. So I hope this is helpful, and good luck writing copy.